CES 2022 is definitely looking different this year. In fact, a lot of companies just didn't show up, but do you know who did show up? Samsung, and they brought all their hot goodies this year, including some pretty exciting TVs. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Caleb Dennison, and yes, CES 2022 is very different. Samsung still has a booth at the big Las Vegas Convention Center. They're calling it Samsung City, still a work in progress, but they had a full-on setup at Caesars Palace Casino so we could walk through and see all of their new TV products, a few audio products, and some stuff that you would not expect. We got up close and personal. I got to see this stuff right there in front of me, and I have thoughts. So let me share those with you now. Before I dig into it, just a quick request that you hit that like button if you like the content that we're producing out of CES, and also smash subscribe because we're gonna be doing a lot more around CES, and you're gonna wanna see all the reviews of the products that we're looking at now. Thank you so much for your support. All right, let's dig into it. So I wanna start with the frame, which may seem odd because I don't cover the frame that often, but it really surprised me. The frame, if you're not familiar, is Samsung's sort of art piece. It's a TV that's made to look like art on your wall. It displays digital art. What's different this year is that the frame has a new anti-reflective coating that, well, that doesn't sound like much, but when you see it, you really get it. It makes the art look real. There's a texture to canvas prints that comes through. It's almost palpable. You can see in this demonstration where there's clearly texture on the right, but over towards the left, it's glossy. You can see the reflection of light coming back at you. Go back to the other one, that reflection simply isn't there. It's got more of a three-dimensional effect. I'm really impressed by this. I think it's gonna be a big hit for Samsung, who's already selling a lot of the frame televisions as it is. Now, as long as we're talking about digital art, I should mention that Samsung has dug deep into NFTs. They have an NFT browser built into its new televisions. Any of them that support ambient mode will support this so that you can browse different NFT art and purchase it and display it right on your television. I mean, NFTs are hot right now, even if most people don't understand them, and Samsung's just digging right in. One of the other cool things I noticed while I was there at the show was a new wall mount that Samsung has developed that actually takes the television and converts it from a horizontal position to a vertical position. And when it does that, it sends a signal to the TV. The Neo QLEDs will support this, and it reorients the picture. So if you want to watch your TikTok videos in a TikTok video format, you can certainly do that. It's also great for their apps as well. It's definitely kind of a gimmick, but something that I think a lot of people are going to be into. You might remember the Samsung Sero from a couple of years ago. This basically turns any Neo QLED TV into a Sero up on the wall. So that's your lifestyle TV stuff right there. One other lifestyle product that Samsung is leaning into hard this year is its new Freestyle, which has just been announced. Now, this is a little portable projector, and we've seen a lot of little portable projectors before, but this one is next level, and Samsung is clearly very excited about it because it was all over this display. This is a little cylindrical canister-style projector. It's 1080p, but what's really magical about it is that it's got a pretty decent audio system built right in. It'll accept external inputs. There's a little mini HDMI jack on there, but everything that you need to stream content is built right in. It's got the Tizen interface and all the apps that you want to stream anything that you want. What really surprises me about this projector is how automated it is. You can put it anywhere you want, and it's going to give you a nice, justified, keystone-corrected image in focus automatically, and it only takes a matter of seconds. In fact, at first, it kind of looks like it's screwing up, but it's actually reading the wall, figuring out exactly where it needs to put that image, and then it puts it up on the wall. And you don't have to do a thing. It's automated, which I think is a huge plus because most folks that futz around with projectors struggle with that kind of thing. You get a trapezoid image on the wall, it's out of focus depending on the size, it just doesn't work very well. Now, this is a 1080p projector. It is not exceptionally bright, but it is brighter than I was expecting, brighter than most Pico projectors I've tested before. Again, I think this is going to be a really exciting product from Samsung. We don't often hear about pricing at CES, but we do know that this thing is expected to come in at about $900. It's a toy, an expensive toy, but a really cool one. Now, I'm gonna start talking about Samsung's new Neo QLED TVs in just a minute, but before we get there, we've got to talk about MicroLED. This is a technology that made its debut a few years ago. It's been a work in progress. This stuff doesn't tend to be ready for customers' homes, but that is starting to change. This year, Samsung announced a new 89-inch prefabricated MicroLED TV, and I got right up on it. I mean, my face was pressed up against this thing. I was looking for the seams in the individual panels, and I didn't see them. Only in very dark scenes at specific moments with my face right up against the display did I see it. Let me tell you, if you've never seen a MicroLED TV in action, it's ridiculous. The brightness is insane. The black levels are perfect. The saturation of colors at those extreme brightness levels, also incredible. I just can't get enough of it. It's kind of one of those things where you stand there and go, this is a bit much, but you know what? I like it. At any rate, I don't know when these things are going to come down to a price where folks can afford them, but let me tell you, this is a very impressive display technology. And frankly, I don't see why you would ever buy a high-end projector again when something like these Samsung MicroLED TV displays exist. All right, I promised I would talk about Samsung Neo QLEDs. Let's do that now. The new Neo QLEDs have an all-new design. They're virtually bezel-free at this point. And they have a new, very thin profile accented with a metallic border along the edges. So they've got a fresh new look to the stand as well. The new Neo QLEDs have better audio chops now as well. Dolby Atmos is built in, and it's not that virtualized Dolby Atmos that you hear about with most TVs. There are actually speakers on the back of the TV that are designed to fire upwards to give you that top-down Atmos effect. And of course, there's going to be object tracking sound. That's where you can kind of pinpoint sounds on the screen. So if an effect happens in the upper right portion of the screen, that's where you hear it from. And they work with Samsung soundbars. Their Q Symphony sound feature actually uses all of the speakers in the TV now instead of just a couple of them. So you're able to get a really rich audio experience whether you're using just the onboard TV sound or in combination with a Samsung soundbar. But let's be honest, we're all here to talk about Neo QLED picture quality, right? That's where it's at. So what's new this year? Well, Samsung has new processing built in. That's a big part of it. They're going to be controlling those mini LED backlights in a new way. There are more mini LEDs, there are more zones, and that means that we should be getting even better contrast, higher brightness, better black levels, less halo, less blooming, all of the stuff that we like about the Neo QLEDs, but turned up to 11. Or maybe it's actually turned up to 14. I'm actually talking about Samsung's new 14-bit luminance control. So let's say you've got a super bright image on the screen. Oftentimes you will lose detail in those super bright areas. There are details in those big bright white spots of snow, for instance. That is now going to be rendered with more detail. So there will be more detail in the dark areas with 12-bit processing there and more detail in the bright areas with 14-bit processing. It's something that demonstrates pretty well. I mean, it looked good when I saw it there, but it's not something that I can stack against another TV. So until we get them in for review, I'm going to reserve some of my excitement, but on paper, it makes a lot of sense, and I think it's going to make a big difference, especially when Samsung's Neo QLEDs are all about that brightness. It shouldn't just be brightness for brightness sake. It should be brightness to bring out the depth of the image, and I'm pretty hopeful, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, Samsung has done a lot to update its Tizen smart TV operating system, and I'd be here all day if I went through all of it, but one of the things that I wanted to hone in on is the gaming hub. There's actually something they call Game Bar that pops up on the TV that's going to give you real-time feedback as to what the resolution is, whether HDR is engaged, and the FPS level that you're playing at in real time for that particular game. But that's just scratching the surface in terms of the TV's gaming capabilities. Now, we don't know which sets are going to feature this. I suspect it might be all of the Neo QLEDs, but they will support 144 hertz, which is a big deal for gaming. It takes things beyond that 120 hertz level up to 144 hertz. Now, I'll grant you, there aren't a lot of PC gamers out there that have the kind of hardware that can push 4K at 144 hertz, but those who can will be able to enjoy that experience on a TV and not just a gaming monitor. This also brings up the question around HDMI 2.1. How many HDMI 2.1 ports can we expect to see in the top-of-the-line Neo QLEDs? Well, Samsung wasn't saying. That is a detail that they intend to tell us a little bit down the road. But right there at the display on the wall, you can see it here, they're suggesting there will be 4 HDMI 2.1 ports enabling 144 hertz gaming on these TVs from any of those ports. So maybe it's a little bit of mixed messaging, but I am optimistic that Samsung is going to move past having just 2 HDMI 2.1 ports so that all 4 support it. One of those will support eArc, of course, which is another big deal for gamers. Now, I want to come back to my overview of the Neo QLEDs here in a moment, but I want to press on with this whole gaming aspect because I really feel like it's ramping up. These TVs are looking more and more like they're the better gaming option than dedicated gaming monitors. In fact, the Samsung Neo QLEDs this year now support both Google Stadia and NVIDIA's GeForce Now for streaming gaming. And they had some demonstrations going on and they looked fantastic. Now, got to be a little bit concerned about the lag that you get when you're doing cloud gaming like that. But in terms of sheer beauty, looked fantastic. You can connect most gaming controllers and just use them with your TV without having to have a separate piece of equipment. But there is still a reason to go for a hardcore gaming monitor, and I saw it in person at the show. There is a new Neo Odyssey gaming monitor that runs right up to 240 hertz. There's a few of them actually. You've got a standard 16:9 aspect ratio, and there was a 32:1 aspect ratio as well. Huge widescreen monitor, looked amazing. And then something that absolutely blew my mind was this curved vertical display. I don't even, you know what? I'm not even gonna try and describe it. You can see it right here. Look at this thing. You can break it down into 3 different compartments. It's kind of like picture in picture. You can break the screen up so that you have gaming on the bottom half, maybe a football game in the upper right, and then whoever you're chatting with on video in the upper left. Really, really fun stuff. So don't count those gaming monitors out just yet. They're still making advancements. And I should point out too that those Neo Odyssey monitors are also mini LED displays with over 2,000 zones of local dimming, even in those small displays. Really just impressive stuff from Samsung in terms of gaming. And I know this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're gonna learn a lot more as the year goes on. So bringing it back to the Neo QLED TVs, are these a substantial move upwards from last year's Neo QLEDs? I do think so. Again, I think that 14-bit luminance control is something that we're really gonna have to test out and see how much value it brings to the experience. These TVs are certainly bright, they're very vivid, they have very good black levels, they've got all the gaming features you could possibly want, and the new user interface looks fantastic. So I think they're gonna be hot sellers, but how they compete against the new OLEDs that are coming out from other manufacturers, that remains to be seen. And that also brings me to my final point. Samsung QD display or QD OLED. Now, we did not expect to see a Samsung QD OLED or QD display, as they call it, TV at CES. And lo and behold, last night, the 65-inch version TV from Samsung Electronics won an innovation award. So apparently it does exist, but Samsung will not talk about this TV for at least another 6 weeks. So we're gonna have to press the pause button on that. Technically, it is a TV. It does come from Samsung Electronics, which makes the TVs that come into your home. It is somewhere in Las Vegas right now, probably over at Samsung Visual Display. But it's supposed to be an actual TV that we will see this year. So it's not just Sony that's gonna be doing QD OLED. It looks like Samsung is gonna be in that game as well. Well, folks, that just makes for a really exciting year for TVs coming up. And you're gonna wanna be right here at Digital Trends to catch all of it. Thanks as always for watching, everybody. What do you think about Samsung's CES 2022 announcements? Leave me a comment about that down below so we can talk about it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and here's 2 other videos that I think you'll like.